Hello, this is the year of being 70, the podcast I've been doing for almost a year with my long-term youth friend, what do you say, Lucy McCarrer, who is usually in Norfolk. Anyway, she's in the UK, she's somewhere else now. And I'm in Amsterdam, and we have been friends since we were 8. And when Lucy turned 70 last year, she had this fully formed idea that we were going to talk about how it is to be 70, but because you don't know how it is until you get there, do you?
No, no, not at all, not at all. It's a whole new experience, and I must say it's rather a good one. But no, I am in Dorset at the moment. I'm looking after grandchildren for a couple of days, so I apologise for the quality of the picture because I'm on my laptop and it just doesn't have such a good camera as my PC. So there we go. Sorry, I'm a bit
You
fuzzy.
have this interesting image behind you, as if there's an extra window, as if you're in a church and the weather outside is very stable but beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of my son's paintings. He's an artist, and he paints trompe-l'oeil pictures of windows and mirrors, and yeah, and they're all completely flat canvas. There are no, but he paints in the frames, and it looks extraordinarily realistic. It's hard to tell unless you're actually in the room with it that it's actually a completely flat canvas. That
Yeah,
yeah.
it just creates an extra window on a wall. It's funny.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
seen anything of his work. I knew he was an artist, but I've never seen anything of his work. But today, because I turned 71, I'm turning 71 next week,
Next
Lucy. My
week,
year of being
no.
70 will be over. I'm going to find out how it is to be 71. But we thought we'd do kind of our final looking back on between our 65th and our 70th, that de half a decade.
Yes, well, I think we covered our sort of early decades in decade-long chunks. So we
Yeah.
did our childhood, our teenage years, our 20s, 30s, 40s. And then did we get into half decades in our fifth? Yes, I think
Not
we
into
did. Then we
half
kind of
decades. And we
took,
actually discovered, both of us, that our half decade between 60 and 65 was extremely productive.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how was this in the
absolutely.
half decade from 65 to 70 for you?
Well, that was also very productive. I mean, in 2009, we hit 65, didn't we? In the
19,
latter half
19,
of the year.
2019.
Oh, yes, sorry, it was my 2019.
Yes, at the end of
Yeah.
the year. Yeah.
So yes, so at that point I was running Rethink Press and everything was going well. We were very busy. We had lots of clients. I just started the Business Book Awards, so that was into its second year, and yeah, everything was kind of motoring nicely. How about you? Where were you when you hit 65?
Yeah, it's like 65 was still an age that was so much in my mind connected to retirement. At 65, you
Yes.
retire and you go and do fun things, as they say. But yeah, I threw a big party for my 65th. It was wonderful. And I was also extremely productive. I'd actually said, after stepping down from the Findhorn board, I said to yours, no more boards. I've served on boards for 25 years. I've done my bit, no more boards. And then 4 years ago, I got a call from someone from Pimwimic, which is Put Your Money Where Your Meaning is Community. It is a co-op with which we invest together in impact in regenerative agriculture. And they said, would I like to come on the board? And there was an immediate yes in me. So at that August age of almost turning 67, I stepped on another board, and I also wrote another book in um, in 2019, 20. And then we'd organized an eldest daughter retreat in Findhorn. And I was actually at my mother's. I remember this very well. I was at my mother's and I was saying goodbye for the week because I was going to be in Findhorn. And then I mean, she was watching television a lot, but it was also this strange rumor of a virus kind of happening. And so then our Prime Minister, Minister Mark Rutte, now Secretary General of NATO, but he came on television and said, don't visit frail people. And my mother and I had to laugh because I was already there. And we are going to implement a lockdown. And wow. So
So what was your lockdown like? I mean, I can tell you what, I mean, I'll tell you what ours was like in the UK, but I don't actually know how yours worked in the Netherlands. How intense was it? How restricted were you?
it was very intense. I mean, we were really in lockdown. They said, don't go out, don't go anywhere. Of course, you have to go shopping. We had to wear masks, of course. And I literally didn't go anywhere. But Jos every day took his bike and went to his studio and came back with groceries. And I remember walking around the kitchen table to get my steps in and walking around the house with my phone in hand to get my steps in. And I think it was very harsh for very many people. Still, of course, must be in the UK too, for youngsters who kind of missed years of socializing and friendship, or who just, went to college or university and were then cooped up in their room. And it was also, quite funny in the beginning because we would all of a sudden jump on Zoom calls. I remember having, Zoom calls back to back, and these mothers kind of with their laptop going through, oh, no, there's a teenager here. Oh, no, there's my husband in the kitchen. Oh,
Yeah.
no, there's another child here. Where can I go? Let me go, basically to the loo and sit there with my laptop so I can do the call. And it was very harsh for many people. And because of being an introvert, I was like, wow, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be here. And it felt like it was time for the introvert to really kind of have all the time I wanted. But it was, of course, difficult for businesses, difficult and severe. I mean, people died and yeah.
Yes, no, I mean it was really pretty frightening here. I mean, I think it started main in Italy. Well, I mean, it didn't start in Italy, but lockdowns, I think, first happened in Italy. And I'm pretty sure most of us in the UK were thinking, oh, well, Italy's Italy. We won't have to do that, I'm
That
sure.
was on the
And
continent.
no, exactly. And then it sort of got closer and closer, and it became quite scary. And there were people who were coming off planes with COVID, and started to know of people, and the hospitals started getting crowded, and the news of people dying was everywhere. And then suddenly Boris Johnson was our prime minister then, and I mean, I think he really did not want to do lockdown, so he sort of hummed and hawed and kind of postponed it. And then suddenly, in March 2020, he came on the television and said, we are in lockdown. Do not go out. You cannot go anywhere. I mean, obviously, there were exceptions to that. Stay at home. And this was literally, in fact, for us, it was 2 nights before the Business Book Awards, where we had a huge dinner planned, and everybody coming, the awards, and we had to turn it into an online event. And I mean, I was not part of that sort of technical part, but the team were absolutely astonishing. And they created this amazing online event that everybody could log into. And there was this piece of software that had kind of like tables where you could see who was sitting at them, and you could move your character, your avatar, around between tables and go into breakout rooms and chat to different people. It was very clever. I mean, obviously
I've
it
never
wasn't.
seen that with the avatars where I could join another table, but the breakout rooms and all of that going online.
Yes, yes. And then business wise for us, it was brilliant because everybody was stuck at home, so they all decided to write their books. So it was, we had a lot of people kind of wanting coaching and mentoring, and we had to, I mean, I used to run big workshops with like 60 people, to get them going on their books, to sort of do the planning bit. And of course that couldn't happen. So I had to create an online program that we called Book Builder. And from that, I wrote the book Book Builder. So that was, a very new and
So
interesting.
you also wrote a COVID book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Book Builder was my COVID book. Um, but personally, I live in the country, as you know. I walk dogs around fields, so I don't meet people or don't have to meet people. My daughter has a horse. We had to go on looking after the horse, so we had to go down to the stables and see people. And you were allowed to go shopping, and I realized that that's pretty much all I do anyway. So it didn't make, apart from not going to London for business meetings,
And did you
having
go
to
see your mother?
and having and seeing my mother, that was difficult because she was at that stage still very active and sort of driving between Aldeburgh and London quite a lot. So she moved to Aldeburgh, and
Yeah.
so she was in lockdown, and she was in a bubble, as
Yeah.
they do you know, yes, with some
We call it
friends.
a bubble here too. We
Yeah,
almost speak English all of the time. And that was another thing in the lockdown because Amsterdam had no tourists and it felt like the city could actually recuperate from
yeah,
from the hordes and hordes of tourists coming. And as people living in the city center, which I did then, we noticed that when we met people in the street, we were speaking Dutch to them, whereas very often when you speak English to them because you just assume they're a
the
tourist looking this
tourists.
way or
Yeah.
it's some sort of clumsy thing that tourists do. But but it felt like the city could kind of let me breathe a moment.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Even around us, even in the country, it was much quieter because obviously there are big roads, and you realize that you hear the background noise of traffic, even when you're in a small village. And that when the roads were empty, I mean, occasionally I had to go to other places to do things, not very far away, but the roads were empty. It was very quiet. The bird song was so much louder.
Yeah.
There was just it really did make a difference, and I felt the air felt cleaner. It was lovely. I in many ways I enjoyed lockdown because it really didn't personally impact me in a bad way. The
I
only thing was I
enjoyed it.
couldn't, as you say, I couldn't go and see my mother for several months, so she was pretty much on her own. But she was completely independent at that point, so it wasn't like yeah, it
I
was
enjoyed lockdown too. So yeah, maybe some others who listened have very other experiences, very different experiences, but both of us as the extroverted introverts, we also enjoyed the quiet. So did I. Yeah.
yes, yes. Well, I mean, my eldest son had two children who should have been at school and weren't, and so he and his partner both work at home. Well, they were obviously working at home at that point anyway. So there was all those things you say, who gets to
Yeah.
use computers when and where the children were on. I used to go on Zoom and read them stories.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of child minding, distance child minding, so they
I
could
think
get
it
on
has
with some work.
propelled us onto Zoom. It has fostered the whole notion of distant working and not being in the office every day anymore and all of that. And at the beginning, there were also these hopeful voices that said, oh, this is a portal and we will be different on the other side of it. We
Yeah.
will not fly around the earth so much anymore. We will not go shopping just for the fun of it and not think about, the damage that does. But it all sprang back quite
It
easily.
did. I really thought there would be a massive change. I thought things would never be the same again, but they pretty much are, really. What was
With a vengeance, even.
yes, exactly. What was very irritating to me was that I had been promoting flexible working and working from home, in the early 20s. And sudden, it was as if, oh, this is a whole new idea. And, we'd been showing people for a decade how this could positively impact your bottom line and everybody's well-being and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody had really taken it seriously, and then suddenly they did. But after COVID, there was a huge kind of pushback on that as well, and people then
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, no, 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 we can't go on with this. You must come into the office. We must be able." And that was
Yeah.
stupid too.
Well, I think it's much more flexible now. But also,
Yeah.
people are too often away from the office, they don't really know who they're working for anymore. And I feel meetings, and I mean, so much is being done online, and it's wonderful. But also, you need to see each other from time to time because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I
a
mean,
different conversation.
yeah. I mean, Rethink Press has always been, we've never had an office. We've never, everybody is
Yeah.
flexible. Most people, are sort of at home working. And, we get to see each other. We have kind of get-togethers, but it didn't impact us as a business in that way either, because we were already doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was nothing, again, we didn't suffer from having an empty office or paying rent that we couldn't use or not being able to manage the business because we'd always done it like that. So we were feeling a bit kind of generally pleased with ourselves for having been. We weren't at all foresighted. It was just that was how it worked best for all of us. So it was.
And so with the mothers, I think for the first 3 months, I didn't go see my mother. And then, of course, it was more summery and you could sit outside and it felt,
Yeah,
that ban was, and my sister continued to go see her. They lived in the same street and she did continue. But then my mother died in 21 and we had one of those kind of COVID funerals where, strangely enough, people were grouped three, with a chair in between, three. And for my mother's funeral, and we could only invite a limited number of people, which, at her age, it was okay
yeah,
because so many had already gone. So we were there with exactly the right people, actually. And we did have a little party afterwards, but we kind of kept a distance. It was still, are we in? Are we out? And we didn't shake hands. But then, of course, as a family, we wanted to hug. And then some of, my siblings' friends and my friends came who had known my mother well. And of course, you wanted to hug. So it was all a bit strange, but it was.
yes, that was odd, actually. Yeah.
I do know of friends who've had funerals of dear ones that, they couldn't attend, in the beginning. And that was really difficult for us.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, my mother-in-law died at the end of, I think it must have been 2019, so pre-COVID,
Yeah.
pre-lockdown, and
Yeah.
it would have been, she had so many people came to her funeral, and it would have been terrible if it
Yeah.
hadn't, she hadn't been able to have that. Well, we haven't been able to have that for her. So yeah, I mean, it must be,
But
and
it's
weddings and
less
things.
terrible than, a friend of mine has not been able to attend a funeral of her half sister. And when you don't have that, you don't have that. So
No, no.
yeah. So that was all a strange and, for us, good time. And yeah, what else was there
Yeah,
in?
so what happened to you? What was when kind of COVID more after 2020? What happened to you in 2021? So how old were we then? 67, I suppose. Was that the year that you joined the Findhorn board?
Not the Findhorn board. I
Oh
stepped
no,
down
no, no, sorry. The
the women board. Yes. So my mother died in June, and I think I got a call later that summer. We were on holiday, and I was like, wow, yes. And so the past 4 years have been quite intense with the yeah, with that impact investment vehicle. And also I've done a lot of other investments. I've really, yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, after that, all sorts of things ramped up for me. So I think it was 2021, we acquired another publishing company. So it was, I mean, we bought a little one a few sort of years before that, but it was just we bought some titles really that were,
Sounds entrepreneurial to me.
well, yes, it was. But our next biggest competitor, I mean, Rethink Press is the biggest hybrid publisher of business books in the UK. And our next biggest competitor it wasn't a hostile takeover or anything. She wanted to get out of the publishing bit. She put her company on the market, and it just seemed, and obviously, we were having had such a good COVID year, we were in a good place to actually purchase her business, which was a whole new experience. I mean, it was a big business with a team with lots of sort of complicated sort of bits to it that we wanted to include, and we knew that she had things that we didn't have, distribution deals and things like that, that we wanted her company to sort of meld with ours to do to produce. But it was so, I mean, it took us really at least a year to go through that process, to not just to buy the company, that was the easy bit, but to then include, see who in her team we needed to keep and who we needed to not work with anymore, and how to. Oh, it was just. I mean, it took up a massive amount of time
I
and
think, I
energy.
see this a lot in businesses also, of course, that I invest in or that I invest in through funds, that there's always, you always underestimate the amount of work it is to integrate one
Yeah.
company into another in different cultures and whether people fit or not and processes are different. And yeah, the acquisition is one, the idea is one thing, the acquisition is the next thing. It's all happy making, and then oh my God, the groundwork. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that was really all new to me, and I mean, actually, I would say it took us probably 2 years for it to, kind of really come together, and then it was, it all was sort of well worth it and everything. But that was a big sort of chunk of work that happened then, and then I think we got to where were we? What year? 22. So in 2023, then the whole idea of Book Magic AI kind of made its way into the universe. And AI, well, that was the year that AI started being a thing, I think, 2023. I don't know, it probably didn't affect you particularly.
Yeah,
But
it wasn't you were pioneering there. Yeah.
well, it was somebody who was in a group that I was in suddenly sort of said, put in a Facebook group. I'm having a bit of trouble, and he was a tech person. He was an app developer and is an app developer, Jonathan, and he put into a Facebook group. I'm having a bit of trouble with my book. I'm thinking of developing an app to help me write it. Anybody interested? And I thought I was kind of both delighted and horrified. I thought, you you can't do this. We're the people who know how to write books, how to mentor people through book writing. So I just kind of messaged him and said, look, I think this is something we should do together. What do you think? Shall we talk? And we did, and we
But
kind
I
of.
so love this about you, Lucy, that, at this age, esteemed age, when we're supposed to be retiring or retired already, you don't go like, well, AI, that's going to be too much for me. I'm not going to go there. This is for younger people. You just go and contact this person and then become a pioneer in this field.
Well, it did all just sort of fall into place, and it just seemed. I mean, I think there are some
No,
really.
no, 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 no. We're not going there. You're using again your ping pong bat. I pay you a compliment. You say it all just fell into place. It is not like that. It is an eagerness and a curiosity and an openness to the new that you still cultivate, and you're still cultivating it at this age. And that's why we're doing this podcast in the first place.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so was it you who told me? Somebody told me recently that the best way to take compliments is to say thank you and thank you for noticing.
Absolutely. It was me.
So,
It comes out a game of transformation, which comes out of Findhorn. So let me promote that. It's a very gracious way of doing it. And now I suspect that you've adopted it as like another little ping pong bat. And then you can just flip it over the net again and you don't really need to take it in. Anyway, this is my pedagogy
I
of the
know you're probably right, and I don't know what it is about me that I feel sort of embarrassed, kind of accepting compliments or seeing myself as in any way special. But there you go. It
And
is.
we all are. It's not like you're more special than other people, but it's just you're
No,
special in a
exactly.
way. And it is inspiring to other people that life doesn't end at 68, but you can just throw yourself into AI and develop a product and market it and do all the good things you're doing.
Well, it was very exciting, very interesting, still is. I mean, it's going really well, and it's turning out to be a very clever app that really helps people write their books and plan their books and get them out much faster. So that's great. Oh, I must just say, and this has nothing to do with that period of life, but last week I was at this entrepreneur festival kind of event, and I was on a panel with talking about credibility. And one of the messages we also wanted to get across to people was that it's never too late. Don't feel if you haven't achieved something yet, you've missed the boat. So the host kind of turned to me and said, "Well, Lucy, what would you have to say about this?" And so I just said, "Well, I'm 70." And I just got a round of applause and people going, "Woo!" I'd achieved something brilliant just by being 70. So I thought, oh, that's a good line. I'll use that one again.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a complete digression.
So I want to go back to 2019 because
Yeah.
a good friend of mine died in November 2019. No, it's not true. Her birthday was in November. She died 29th of October. And she was American. I knew her from Findhorn. And my friend Frank von Beuningen had fallen in love with her, had to woo her for woo, I never know how to pronounce that, for 6 years until she relented and married him and came to Amsterdam and kind of revived the whole notion of Pimwimic and put it on a higher level and organized conferences and really said there's something here we need to professionalize and be pioneers, acknowledge our role as pioneers in the impact investing field. And she died of cancer. And then in January 2020, Frank invited me for a cup of coffee in the morning on a Saturday. And as I was biking over, I thought he might just go and ask me to write the book that she still had in mind, which was called The Inner Life of Money.
Such a good title.
Is it?
Yes, I like that title very much. Yeah.
So, what do you imagine with that title?
Um, I imagine looking at money in a different way than just thinking, here's how to make most books on money, I think, are here's how to make more of it. And the inner life of money sounds um, uh, interesting, psychological, and also not the other thing that I think that lots of books on money do is focus on you as a person and why you as a character do not make enough money or do make enough money or it's sort of it's all about the reader. But I like the idea that money itself has an inner life, is a character, is something that has well, obviously a life. So what does it mean to you? Because you know what the book was supposed to be about.
Well, someone searched her laptop and thought we would find, a lot. We didn't really find much, and and Frank asked me and another friend and asked if we would do this together. And this is a wonderful woman, Marilou van Holstein-Brouwers, who set up the whole investment banking area of Triodos Bank. And she and I knew of each other, but we didn't really know each other. So first we kind of started to know each other. And as it turns out, I was so kind of, impressed by her. So when I first came and she invited me, let's go to dinner somewhere, she still was working at the bank then. And I thought, oh, I must really, sell myself. I must really. And then she said, no, but I was so impressed by you because I don't know what she was impressed about. We were mutually impressed. And
Wonderful.
now she is, I think, my best friend. So that is a
Oh,
gift that Margaret has given us, we
how
feel.
wonderful.
And during COVID, we interviewed a lot of people about the messages, the people who have money. We spoke to them about what they do with it, how they feel about it, how it came to them, how it ran in the family, what kind of assignments were given to them. And for many, this was the very, very first time that they spoke about not so much the inner life of money, but their inner life with money. And because very often many of them are quite, lonely. There's people who, they know you have money, but they don't really no, money is not anything you get educated about, right?
True.
No education about money. And I've kind of also through, I guess, my father somehow learned a bit about investing, although I studied the classics. But whenever I talk about money, people come to me and say, I have a bit, I'm really a bit embarrassed to say that I have some, but what to do with it? What can I do with it? Where can I put it? So there's a lack of practical understanding. And then there's all these expectations from family. There's the fear of making the big mistake and losing it all and being the fool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear. And Margaret had also started something called Women's Wealth Matters, WWM. And we did actually, a friend of mine, Corinne, organized a brilliant, brilliant session online with, over 100 women there. And she
Wonderful.
said, women are coming into money and we need to talk about it amongst ourselves and feel confident to ask the kinds of questions that are not being asked, but that should be asked and
Yeah.
that arise in us. And we
Yes. Well,
need
it's
some
particular.
confidence there
It's
because we're often kind of whisked away.
Yeah, well, it's very pertinent at our sort of age and a bit younger as our parents die and leave us. It might be a small amount, but it might be, a big
Yeah,
amount that we haven't had before. And yes, I mean, what to do with that? Whether do you save it? Do you keep it for your old age? Do you invest it? Do you buy wonderful things and
yeah,
go on expensive holidays? And then I think the other thing that people feel about money is kind of, well, either it kind of can go one of two ways. Either they can be very showy about money, or they can be very embarrassed about money and kind of try to hide it. And both neither of those things are particularly
yeah.
particularly good, I don't think. So what did you find out? Did you only talk to people with money, or did
Yes.
you talk to people who had lost money or gone bankrupt
But
or
also, people who have money have lost money.
yes, well, that's true. Yes, it's not
All
a
gone
static thing.
bankrupt and bounced back up again. Yes, we talked to about 100 people, and there were some, renowned philanthropists, and people referred us to other people. Like a woman in her 30s said, I have a few other friends who are also wealthy who would really, be good for your information, but also be happy to speak about the kinds of pressures they're on. Because, as you say, most books about how to make more are about how to make more of it, but also there's like an ingrained conviction that we need to make more of it. That money is like, a hen. It needs to kind of produce eggs all the time, or a cow, and then
Yeah,
more of it
yeah,
all the time. But why is that actually true? So there's also this whole about what is enough, and then if I have enough, what can I do with it? Where can I put it so that my inner purpose is, so that I can put my energy, maybe my time, because I don't need to work for money, but also my money behind things that I believe in.
yeah. And that makes you happy and fulfilled and brings you personal satisfaction from money
Yeah,
as opposed to some kind of yes, I don't know.
I
I mean,
don't know.
you say a lot of people with money are unhappy. What did you find out about that?
Well, some people feel kind of estranged because they are in different circumstances for others, and when there's some sniffing about those rich people, then yeah, you're actually that, but you can't really say it in the moment, or so there's some of that. There's people who feel tied to their family, who have, for instance, different ethics than they have, and then they feel they're in a situation where also money ties families together, and that can be very, very,
Yeah, yes, yes,
but
of
it can also
course.
be constrictive and prescriptive. And when you're younger, you kind of need to find your way. So how is it? Suppose you're 25 and you don't actually need to work. Do you have, an inner drive? If you don't have an inner drive, then what do you do?
Yeah. I
So,
listened to an interesting radio program, it was a few years ago now, about three adult children of incredibly rich people. And I think two of them had been brought up with their wealth very, kind of obvious, and part of their lives. And one of them had their parents had brought them up in a very, let's say, normal, kind of pleasant middle class ambience, and hadn't made it obvious to the children growing up that they were extremely rich. And this person was the only one of them who had grown up with a very sort of positive sense of self
mm,
and
yeah,
desire to achieve in their own right. Well, the other two were interestingly not just sort of, oh, I don't need to work because I've got money. It wasn't that. It was more, I'll never manage to achieve what my parents or my father
yeah,
particularly had
yeah,
achieved. I
yeah.
cannot live up to that. And therefore I feel useless. And, I've got this money and it's not, I don't deserve it. And, their mental
Yeah,
health was
but
genuinely badly affected by having grown up sort of overtly wealthy.
yeah, no, that's that, and so, but also, of course, because you have the money, and then you're unhappy, huh?
Yeah,
You're not allowed to say that very much either. So,
no,
but I still haven't written the book. I've made
no,
about
no, that's the
seven
interesting
attempts.
point. Where's the book gone?
Where's the book gone? Well, one way it's gone, I've tried all kinds of things. I've tried fiction, which I really enjoyed. I've tried nonfiction. I might go back to the fiction because I really enjoyed that, my hand at that for the very first time. It's also gone into all the other things I'm actually doing because investing is also, it's like when you said acquiring a company. The moment you decide to do it and you do it, okay, that's easy. Yeah, you have to go through some legal stuff, but then it's easy. But then also, when I invest, then I have a connection to that company. If I make a direct investment, I aim to help that company with kind of being a sounding board or I'm reading everything they send me, all reports, all quarterly reports, asking questions, being engaged if they do webinars about it, also bringing them in touch with people. And I do that for funds also. And then, of course, yeah, they have events. So I go to the events. And then as chair of PIMWIMIC, I go to all the PIMWIMIC events. And because of that, I meet a lot of interesting people. Like, can I do it? So my whole life is now kind of gobbled up by this
Yeah.
activity. And well, one day, maybe when I'm 75, I will have time. But it's also, I know it's about making time because when I look back, and we have looked back, especially to that decade, to that half a decade between 60 and 65, we did it all and wrote books. And now I do it all, and I haven't written this book. So it's still somewhere there. I've
Yeah,
not
well,
decided, is it actually a book in English? Is it a book in Dutch? Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I have a belief that books as are kind of entities, like they have, the books have their own, each one has its own inner life. And it may take a considerable amount of time and experience and growth of the author before it's ready to come out. And I kind of feel that when it's ready, it will say to you, this is the book you need to
Now, yeah.
write. Now is the time. And, it may not make it any easier necessarily, but it's sort of like, it will be that fully formed thing at some point that says, write me now.
I so hope it will be. And maybe I need to employ you as a coach and then we can continue our conversations, but
Well, perhaps that's what
very
yes.
privately offline in my coaching me to write this book. But I'm very happy you say this because I do feel this book is somewhere it's further away. Sometimes it's closer. And then in my busyness of being 70 and soon 71, there is not so much time for it.
No, no, exactly. I mean, that is definitely one of the things I feel about being 70, as I'm sure I've said many times, so little time and who knows how much. but so much to do. Oh, something. My mother's younger sister, my aunt, who is a is a psychiatrist in New York. She emailed Mum the other day, and said, "Oh, I'm so pleased because my care insurance allows me 8 hours of home care a day, so I'm able to keep working." She's 96. I was absolutely, I thought that was so brilliant.
Wow. And is she still working as a psychoanalyst?
I don't think she sees patients anymore, which is possibly a good thing. I don't know. But I think she does sort of prescribing work. I don't exactly know, but it's, kind of more on an admin basis that she can do at home. But she says, I can get through all my emails and do my work in that time. So that's, 8 hours a day at night. Yeah, I'm sure she doesn't do all that. But, her sight is terrible. Her hearing is very poor, but she has her work. And I feel maybe that'll be me.
Yeah. 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 At that age. Well, your mother was a prime example of that. I'm so happy I could tell her that she has been a role model to me. She
No,
has.
she was very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes, and obviously she is to me as well. But yeah,
Ah, yeah. So is she to you in a way that, you just said, I can never achieve as much as my parents? Do you have that with her in any way?
yes, I do feel that in some ways that, I'll never be as, I mean, successful is a she never had paid work after she was married. So she was the chair of Bernardo's, this huge charity, and then the Coram
Many, many
Foundation
years,
for
right?
many years. Yes, and she wrote, she achieved her ambition of being a writer. She never wrote fiction, never not particularly interested in fiction, but she wrote biographies of the men who founded the charities that she was in charge of because she had access to all of their archive. So, but I think with her, she is more, to me, it's a kind of, it's just kind of within me rather than me going, oh, yes, look, this is what this person, my mother, has done. It's sort of like, I just feel I follow in her footsteps and not as well and not as, I don't know, not as powerfully perhaps as she has. But
Hmm.
who knows? She says she's proud of me. So that's, that's nice.
I hope you take that in.
I try.
Glad you noticed.
Yes,
Proud
thank
of you.
you.
So then we celebrated our 70th, right?
Yes, so yes, indeed. So you had your party, which was that wasn't your all male party, was it? That was
No,
your
no, no. That was when I was 50. I had my all male.
right, right.
Now, this time I was approached at some point by a actress who does like one woman shows around topics of interest to her. And so she has no children, and she was kind of coming to grips with that would not happen anymore in her life. And so she started to write this one woman show. And in that, um, she also interviewed people. So I was one of the people she interviewed on stage. And when I was there, I thought, oh, this is actually really nice. I know, and it was a short piece. She now has a full evening thing, but then it was for a festival, so it was like a half-hour thing. And so I engaged her to come to my birthday party. And we had it around the corner here in this kind of edgy part of town where there's, car repair shops that have been abandoned and that are now exploited by a 30-year-old who, uh, arranges everything. And it was wonderful. I always love having people in my life from very different streams in the room, and Julika Marijn did her thing and then interviewed me about, my life and how I felt about this
How
thing.
wonderful. Have you got it on? Have you got it recorded?
I think maybe someone recorded it, but I don't know. And then yeah, then we had drinks and dinner, and I gave people instructions. I said it's always, most comfortable to sit with the people you know because they're obviously, the most interesting people in the room. But I assure you other people are also interesting. So please venture out and mingle. And because I don't have, as we spoken of, one distinct circle of friends, and yeah, it was a lovely party.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
just found I was kind of, my desk was a mess. And so I pulled out some papers, and one was the speech that Jules gave me. That was very beautiful. And one was the
Lovely.
song. We have this tradition in the Netherlands that families sing a song. Well, in some circles, that's a tradition. And they sang a sweet song to me about how different I am. But still, we resemble each other a lot, and how I've tried to convert them to my way of seeing. And that hasn't happened, how we're still together as a family. So that was very sweet, very sweet.
Ah, that's lovely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then I
Oh,
came over for your birthday
then you
party.
came to my birthday party, which was very much less original than traditional. It was a tea party because I wanted the grandchildren to be there as well, and so it was in a place where my son had got married and, well, had his reception, and my brother had had a party, a big birthday party there, and it was on the river. I thought it was
Yeah.
lovely. You could sort of, see out for miles around, and yeah, I mean, well, I don't know what anybody else thought of it, but I loved it. So having been totally
It was
kind of
lovely.
sort of dreading the whole thing for several months beforehand and worrying about it on the day, of course.
Well,
Uh,
you were very proactive because you invited people to speak to you. So in
I
a way,
did.
I mean, you're always shielding yourself from nice words and compliments, but then you all invited us to have, and I hope you took that shower of love and appreciation.
I did. I think it did. It was an important event for me. And one of my other friends as well took me aside after the speeches and said, "Now listen, Lucy, everybody has said really lovely things about you. You have to listen, and you have to imbibe those things, because
I'm
otherwise."
glad I'm not the only one
No, no, you're not.
in this education. We came to the end. Oh, I
Oh,
momentarily lost a connection. So I was already saying we're coming
yes,
to
what were
the
you
end of
saying?
this episode, which for me is the end of the year of being 70. Next time
Yeah.
we speak, I can tell you all about how it is to turn 71.
Yes, no, that will be very useful for me in the next few weeks before I turn 71. But yes, no, that